What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. We continue to go through all of the Power 5 conferences here with our post-spring power rankings. The ACC is up next. We've done the SEC, the Big 10, and the Big 12. If you missed those videos, go check them out. We are ranking the teams now that spring practice is over. And again, I forgot to do the pre-spring power rankings. So these are the first power rankings that I've done this off season. We'll do them again right before the season starts because we've still got changes happening all the time. The transfer portal is still going. We got players coming and going every single day. It is crazy what is going on with this transfer portal. But let's get started here with the ACC starting at the bottom. Number 14 is Duke, the Duke Blue Devils. I've been a pretty consistent team the last few years with David Cutcliffe. They haven't been good, but they've been okay, I guess you would say. They've been a team that hasn't really reached into that level of being terrible, but they haven't really competed in the ACC. Well, this year might be the year that they slip off, and they might be pretty bad. When you look at this roster, you look at what's coming back, there's just not much to get excited about. I mean, we're talking about Chase Bryce going to Duke, an ACC school. After he left Clemson, he's leaving an ACC school to go to a Sun Belt school where he'll have a chance to be on a better team. I mean, that's pretty bad if you're Duke. So again, maybe they surprise me, but I just don't see the talent, don't see the roster being there for Duke this season. At number 13, we've got Syracuse, the Orange, another team that a couple of years ago was pretty good. Remember, they were knocking off Clemson. They almost beat them another time. I really don't know what happened. I just don't know what happened to Syracuse. I can't figure it out. I thought a couple of years ago they were going to be pretty good. They weren't, and they've just kind of gone downhill. So yeah, it's a tough one to figure out. Tommy DeVito has not played as well as I think we expected him to play. The defense hasn't been as good as we thought they were going to be, and last year was really, really bad. They got some guys coming back, some guys that sat out last year because of COVID. So there is hope if you're a Syracuse fan. They could prove me wrong. They could improve this year, but there's just not enough to really move them up in these rankings. At number 12, we got Louisville. Talk about proving me wrong. A couple years ago, I had Louisville at the bottom in the ACC. They had a pretty good season. Last year, I thought they were going to be really good. They were terrible. So you should get excited, Louisville fans, because I'm putting your team down here towards the bottom of the ACC, which means they're probably going to have a pretty good year. But when I look at this team, I'm not seeing it. I like Cunningham at quarterback, solid player. They lost some really talented playmakers from last year. The offensive line's not great. The defense is not great. They just don't have the talent right now, in my opinion. Louisville is just a team that I think is going to continue to struggle. But again, they could prove me wrong and finish in the top half of the ACC if it's like it was a couple of years ago. Number 11 is Georgia Tech, a team that was kind of stuck in the bottom of the ACC last year. I think they're starting to climb their way out of that bottom tier of the ACC. I don't think they're going to make a big jump this year, but I expect them to be better. They've got a brutal schedule. They probably won't make it to a bowl game just because of their schedule. If the schedule wasn't so bad, then this would probably be a bowl team, but it's brutal. I think we rated them number one, the number one toughest schedule. I believe it was Georgia Tech 1, Florida State number 2. But yeah, you got Sims coming back at quarterback, some talented running backs. The defense should be getting better under Jeff Collins. So yes, Georgia Tech will be more competitive this year. But again, with that schedule, I don't really see them making a lot of noise in 2021. At number 10, we've got Wake Forest. Wake Forest will probably be a pretty good team. Sam Hartman back at quarterback. We're starting to get into the teams that really the top 10. These are the teams that I think will be pretty good. These are teams that I think have a really good shot to get to a bowl game at least. Wake Forest is a team that I think could possibly knock off a good team in the ACC, but they're just not going to have the same kind of talent as a Miami or North Carolina. They just don't have that talent on the roster, but I like what they've been doing there. They've been pretty consistent. They haven't been great, but they haven't really had any terrible teams. I mean, Dave Clawson's done a nice job getting a consistent team here with Wake Forest, a team that can compete every year, and I expect them to be right there again this year where they're competing really with everyone in the ACC except maybe Clemson. Number 9 is Virginia. The next two teams are really close for me with 9 and 8. I'll tell you number 8 in a second, but for Virginia, quarterback's back. Last couple years, maybe not as good for Virginia, but I expect them to continue to improve. I think Bronco Mendenhall has proven that he can get it done. There was a little bit of a step back for them last year, but you had a new quarterback, a lot of new faces. They'll be solid on defense, though. They don't have a ton of production coming back. I think they were ranked in the 70s with returning production. So it's a team that probably is not going to compete in the division to win the division, but it's similar to Wake Forest. It's a team that's probably not going to really get blown out. They'll play with Miami. They'll play with North Carolina. Remember, they just actually beat North Carolina last year. So this will be a quality team, but again, the teams ahead of them I think will be a little bit better. Number 8 is Virginia Tech. And again, I was very close with Virginia and Virginia Tech. Both teams, I think, are going to be pretty similar this year. Virginia Tech had a lot of COVID issues last year, which forced them to play a lot of young players, which I think could benefit them this season. You get some experience for those young guys, and a lot of them will be on the field this year as starters. So that's going to be good for them. They have a similar number, and as far as returning production goes, similar to Virginia. They were a little bit ahead of them. They have a little bit more production coming back, but it was very close. So for me, it's almost like a tie here at number 8 with Virginia and Virginia Tech, but we're going to go with the Hokies at number 8. Number 7 is Florida State. I expect Florida State to be better this year. Just like with Georgia Tech, though, the schedule is going to really keep them from making any major noise. I mean, they're probably not going to sneak into the top 25 just because of their schedule, but they might be one of the top 25 teams. They may not, but there's potential there for them. I think Mackenzie Milton at quarterback is going to be a big boost for them. They've added some other transfers. They did a really nice job in the transfer portal. So I expect the product to be better. I think Florida State will be a much better team this year in year 2 under Mike Norvell. Will they knock off one of the big teams in the ACC? Maybe. I mean, you got Notre Dame. If you throw them in there as well, maybe they knock them off, or maybe Florida. They could get a big win. I think for Florida State, it's about taking care of business against those other teams, though. That's how you get to a bowl game. It's not about pulling off one big win like they did last year against North Carolina. They need to be a little bit more consistent, play better against the lower teams. All the teams behind them in the ACC, they should be beating, honestly. And the talent is there. I think they have a chance to make a big jump this year. But just like with Georgia Tech, like I said, this schedule is going to really hold them back. Number 6 is Pittsburgh, a team that I had on my top 10 most underrated teams for 2021. I don't think people really are talking about this team. They have a ton of production coming back. Kenny Pickett back at quarterback. He's got talent at running back, wide receiver. Defense should be really solid. Pittsburgh is a sneaky team. I know everyone's talking about North Carolina and Miami. If another team were to maybe come out of nowhere, maybe surprise and win that division, I think Pitt is the team that would do that. And again, they have a lot going for them. Are they going to be as talented as Miami and North Carolina? No, but they have a lot of experience coming back. If they can win some close games, you never know. Could be a really good year for Pittsburgh this season. At number 5, we've got NC State, a team that found themselves in the top 25, I think, at one point last year. They have done a really good job. When we talk about consistency, they were like an 8-4 type team almost every year. Never really had any bad years. And a couple of years ago, they did have a bad year, but it was kind of a rebuild year. A lot of young players on the team. Now those guys are starting to grow up. You saw it last year. We saw the potential here for NC State, and I think that potential pays off this year. I think this will be a really solid team. Not a team that's going to beat Clemson or challenge Clemson in the division, but a team that could get 8 or 9 wins and wind up maybe even finishing in the top 25, which is very similar to what I'm going to say about number 4, and that's Boston College. Jerkovich back at quarterback. We really saw him last season look really good. I think Notre Dame really missing him right now. They've got guys that can run the football. The passing game and how they have improved how they improved last season, that was the surprise. They've always been able to run the football, but they were able to throw it last year. Much better balance on offense, a pretty strong defense. This might be the second best team in the Atlantic Division, but just like with Virginia Tech, it's almost like a tie here at number 4 with Boston College and NC State. Those teams I think are very similar. Both teams not going to be on Clemson's level, but I think they will probably battle for number 2 in that division unless Florida State kind of shows their potential and lives up to their potential and they wind up sneaking in there at number 2. But yeah, Boston College, NC State, to me, 2 teams that I think are right there around number 4 or number 5. And then we go to number 3, that's Miami. Miami has a ton of production coming back, and they might actually be number 1 in this conference when returning production. They lost 2 starters on the defensive end, 2 really good players, but still just 2 players on defense. They lost Brevin Jordan at tight end. That's it. Everyone else is back. Assuming De'Aaron King comes back and is healthy at quarterback, this is a very dangerous team. I think it's a team that I don't really expect them to beat Alabama, or maybe they don't even keep that game to 1 possession, but they'll compete, I think, with Alabama. And they'll have a chance to beat everyone on their schedule. They will have a chance to beat everyone on their schedule, meaning if you lose to Alabama, you could go 11-1, have a chance against Clemson to potentially play for a spot in the college football playoff. Now, we don't really talk about them as being one of the top contenders, but again, with their schedule outside of Alabama, I think they have a chance to beat everyone. And this team is going to be experienced, they're going to be talented, and they are going to be dangerous. Watch out for Miami. I think people are sleeping on them a little bit. Number 2, though, is North Carolina, still the favorite in the Coastal Division. You go back to last season and you see, what they did to Miami. I don't think you can say that Miami is going to be favored against North Carolina after that game last season. The gap was so wide in that game. It was just one game. I don't think it tells the whole story. But I really like the North Carolina defense and how they have started to improve. They've been really young there. They're really young there last year. Yes, they lost some talented playmakers around Sam Howell, but they've got other guys that can step in, and I think they'll be fine offensively. So North Carolina, I think, a more complete team this year. Sam Howell back, a Heisman candidate. They are the team that I think has the best shot at knocking off Clemson in the ACC, but Clemson is number 1. And I think it's pretty clear that Clemson will once again be the best team in the ACC, unless perhaps, again, North Carolina or Miami were to upset them in the ACC championship. But regular season, I don't really see anyone challenging Clemson in this division, in this conference. They're the best team. They're the most talented team, loaded on the defensive line, pretty strong overall on defense, and most of their production coming back. Offensive line should be better. Very talented group of wide receivers. Running back a little sketchy, but they've got some young guys that are also going to be really talented. And then you got DJ Uiagalelei coming back at quarterback. He's already played in a big game. There's really not anything to worry about if you're a Clemson fan. This is going to be a really good team. Now, they could lose to Georgia. I'm not saying they're going to knock off Georgia easily. But outside of that Georgia game, they're going to be favored against everyone else that they play in the regular season. It would be a surprise, really, if they were to lose any other game besides that Georgia game in the regular season. So it's probably another spot in the ACC championship, unless something crazy happens, and they're going to be right there in the college football playoff discussion. They're my number 1 team. I don't think there's really much debate there. What do you guys think? How would you rank these teams? Give me your thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports College Football Channel.